Alright, let's talk about MLB expansion, a topic that's been heating up lately. Just a couple years ago, it seemed like expansion was so far away, almost like it was never really going to happen. But here we are, 2024, and before too long, there will be 32 teams in Major League Baseball. Where will those two teams call home, though? That's what everyone's talking about. Recently, a lot of people have been saying it's going to be Nashville and Salt Lake City. And I don't entirely disagree with them. Those two cities are the frontrunners at the moment. Are they the two best possible locations for a new MLB franchise? Not exactly, but they're the ones who seem to want it the most. They're in the right area, got enough people, and enough growth. They've got plans for a new stadium, and have been making a push to land an MLB franchise for a while now. But neither city is a lock. A decision is not going to be made tomorrow. There's still time for another city to swoop in and take it away. MLB isn't determined to put a team in any certain city like they were in some past expansions. Any team that meets the criteria has a shot, if they present themselves right. At the same time, though, it won't be too long before a decision is made. Time is running short. Some cities haven't even decided if they want to pursue landing an MLB expansion franchise. They don't have much more time to think it over. Every day they put it off, the two frontrunners distance themselves even further. For other cities, it seemed like a good idea years ago, but then the situation changed. Or they were anticipating some great changes that never happened. So today I want to take a look at which cities are in and which ones are out of the expansion race. This is not a ranking. The number of cities still in the race is quite small, and the ones that are out are just out. Most of these cities were serious candidates a few years ago. Right away, let's eliminate Mexico City, which never was the serious candidate. The Mexico City series is great, but they do not want a team playing at that altitude permanently. And besides, MLB is just not ready for expansion south of the border. I've said before that I think Monterrey would be a better choice for expansion into Mexico, just a little way across the border from Texas. Put them in the same division as the Rangers and Astros. Fans could travel both directions for away games. A big population, the second largest metro population in Mexico. Fairly safe, with a high GDP per capita. All they need is a new stadium, but so does every city. I seem to be alone in this opinion, though. Everyone tells me that Mexico City is a better option, but I have yet to hear a good reason why. Anyway, that's all beside the point. We're talking about the next MLB expansion, and for that, any city in Mexico is out of the discussion. Another city we can cross off the list is Orlando. The only chance Orlando had was 1. If the Rays relocated there, or 2. The Rays relocated to somewhere far away, and Orlando got an expansion team and became the second team in Florida. The first scenario was a likely one. The second one was a bit of a long shot. Yes, MLB would like to keep 2 teams in Florida, America's third most populous state. But they've had trouble attracting crowds with the teams they have now. They'd be really hesitant to try it out a third time. If by some chance the Rays do end up leaving, Orlando would be a good place to relocate to, but it's not an expansion candidate. Another relocation or nothing city is Montreal. The city has shown no interest in landing an expansion team. They would prefer the cheaper option of having a team relocate to Montreal. They don't want to build a new ballpark. They'd rather a team move into the one they already have, and maybe years down the road they could build something new. So, like Orlando, Montreal was counting on the Rays to move out. Since the Rays announced plans to build a new ballpark in the Tampa Bay area, Montreal hasn't shown any interest in welcoming a brand new franchise. So I would count them out. Here's one that was never thought of as an expansion candidate before, for obvious reasons, and shouldn't be considered one now. That is Oakland, a city that still has a major league team for the time being. While there is a slim chance that nothing gets resolved with the move to Vegas and the team stays put, we're quite certain the A's are leaving. It's not unheard of for a city to lose a team and then get a second chance with another franchise. Seattle, Kansas City, Milwaukee, and Washington are all examples of that. And if it did happen, the A's team in Vegas would probably take up a new name, and the new team in Oakland would become the A's. But it's not going to happen. This is just some dream that A's fans are having. Once the A's are gone, that's the end of Major League Baseball in Oakland. Portland. Here we've got a city that's in the top 25 of metro areas in population. Not a crowded sports market. They don't have NFL or NHL either. They want a team. They've had a group put together to work on getting an expansion team with new stadium designs drawn up long ago. But it's not where the city is, but where the city's headed. If a decision on MLB expansion had been made 10 years ago, Portland very likely would have been one of the cities chosen. But Portland doesn't look so attractive now. Population growth has been on the decline every year since 2020. This happened to a lot of large cities due to the pandemic, but it was mostly people fleeing the cities and moving to the suburbs. Portland hasn't just seen a decline in the city's population, but also the whole 5-county Portland region. The good news is that the population decline has slowed down, and the 5 counties only lost about 900 people in 2023. But that's still really bad news for anyone hoping for an expansion team in Portland. They want to award a franchise to a growing city, one where they can expect a larger population in future years to draw fans from. Portland is already shrinking, and it's not even that big. True, there are other cities with smaller populations than Portland that have major league teams, but those cities have had teams for a really long time. Those cities were thriving when they got their teams. And there are other expansion candidates with smaller populations than Portland, but they are experiencing healthy growth year after year. Moving into a city like Portland, where there are questions about whether the area can ever grow again, would be unprecedented, and just not a smart move. Portland is out. So what about Vancouver? If Portland is out, then there's still room for another team up there. Presently, Seattle is all alone. And if Montreal is out, then Vancouver could give us a second Canadian team, one in the east and one in the west. According to surveys conducted, Vancouver residents would welcome a team, a metro area slightly larger than Portland, and it's growing. It all sounds good. But there has been no organized effort to bring Major League Baseball to Vancouver. It sounds like they're not even considering it at this point. If they were to put some sort of effort together, I think they could possibly overtake Salt Lake City and get an expansion team. So I wouldn't count them out, but it's a race they just don't seem to want to be a part of. Until we see some sort of action from Vancouver, I would leave it out of the discussion for expansion. The way I see it, there are two cities that can still challenge Nashville and Salt Lake City as expansion candidates. Those two cities are Charlotte and San Antonio. I'm sure MLB wants to add one team in the southeast and one out west, so it'll be Charlotte versus Nashville and San Antonio versus Salt Lake City. Here is a ranking of metro population for possible expansion cities from an article by CBS Sports. Montreal is the biggest, but as I said, they're not really interested. That leaves Charlotte and San Antonio with the biggest populations. I don't know why they have Sacramento here. They might be getting the A's for a few years before things are ready in Vegas. That'll be great for them, just like when Buffalo got the Blue Jays for a while. But they're not getting an expansion team. Vegas is there at number 6. They're already getting a team. Then you have Nashville and Salt Lake City as the smallest out of these 8 metro areas. So you have an unusual situation where the smaller cities are leading the way and the larger ones are trying to catch up. And that doesn't even tell the whole story. The state of North Carolina has almost 11 million people, ranking 9th among all U.S. states. The 8 states with more people all have a major league team. 7 of those states have at least 2 teams. San Antonio is a short drive from Austin, another large metro. Put the two together and you've got a massive population to draw fans from. Some will argue that Texas already has 2 teams, they don't need a third one. Well, there are 30 million people in Texas, so having 3 teams would mean 1 team for every 10 million residents. As a comparison, California presently has 1 team for every 7.6 million people. Take the A's away and it's still 1 for every 9.5 million. And unlike Florida, which also has a very large population but will not be getting a third team, the 2 teams in Texas are well supported. No attendance issues with the Rangers or the Astros. MLB has succeeded twice there. Seems like a place where it could work once again. Other rankings from that CBS Sports article. Media market rankings in the U.S. We see Charlotte in number 21, 5 places ahead of Nashville. In this one, Salt Lake City beats San Antonio. GDP per capita. Again, Charlotte beats Nashville, but just barely. Both cities look attractive here. San Antonio beats Salt Lake City. Interesting because a local sports commentator in San Antonio recently got a lot of criticism for saying they can't get a new sports team because the city is too poor. Its poverty rate is pretty high at 18.7%. Hourly wages are about $5 lower than the national average, so it is a low-income city. But you've got to figure that out of San Antonio's large population, and nearby Austin's large population, where incomes are much higher, you'll find enough people who can easily afford tickets to the games. Number of major sports franchises. Charlotte and Nashville both have NFL plus 1 winter team. I would add that in Charlotte, NASCAR is big in the summer. That could make MLB a little hesitant to go there, since there would be competition from another summer sport. San Antonio and Salt Lake City both have just 1 NBA team. No mention of soccer teams here. Salt Lake City does have an MLS team. They've been there about 20 years, so an MLB team would have some sports competition for the summer. Closest MLB city. This is Salt Lake City's strength. No one's driving 520 miles after work on a weekday to see the Rockies. If they want to see Major League Baseball, they will only have one option. San Antonio is far enough from Houston, almost 200 miles. For the cities in between, it would probably be hard for a new San Antonio franchise to win over fans, who are already loyal to the Astros, but they've got enough people in their own immediate area. Nashville and Charlotte are both over 200 miles from Atlanta. This would not be an issue for either city. If we were starting from the very beginning, I would say that Charlotte edges out Nashville, and San Antonio beats Salt Lake City by a somewhat comfortable margin. But the race started long ago, and Nashville and Salt Lake City took off running immediately, while Charlotte and San Antonio were late to the game. Charlotte does have a group working toward this goal, the Charlotte MLB project. But Nashville's group, Music City Baseball, has done so much more. They are ready to bring in a major league team. San Antonio would be a better option than Salt Lake City if we were simply picking cities. If San Antonio gets serious about this, they can steal it away. Rumor is that the city is working on a plan for it now, but other than a little discussion, nothing's really happened there. They need plans for a new ballpark, an idea of where the money's going to come from. Salt Lake City has taken steps forward in this. San Antonio hasn't done anything. And I'll add that if region of the country didn't matter, Nashville and Charlotte would likely get the two expansion teams. But it only makes sense to put one team in the south and one out west, representing the two parts of the country where the population has shifted to in recent decades. If there's another expansion years later, that would probably be an expansion to 36 teams. The two cities that are not chosen this time would most certainly get a team next time. But we have no idea when that will be. Could be a few decades from now. Some of us will be really old by then. Some of you will be dead. For those living in those cities, losing out on MLB expansion this time could mean the end of the MLB dream for their lifetime. For those living in the cities that do get chosen, we all hope they'll get out to the ballpark on a regular basis and support their new team. A big reason why MLB has been so hesitant to expand in recent decades is because the last two expansions done in the 1990s resulted in 4 new teams, 3 of them with ongoing attendance issues. If it's successful this time around, we may not have to wait so long next time. Anyway, that's just what I think. Let me know what you think down in the comments. That's all for this one, and until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya!